Ladies and gentlemen, there can be no doubt that Colorado has some of the best off-roading in America, if not the world. And for the longest time, I have contended that today's modern off-roaders with their terrain management systems are not as good as the traditional off-road vehicle. And for this reason, let me introduce you today to the newest member of the TFL family, the TFL YJ Jeep. And that is coming up next on the Fast Lane Car. This is a 1995 Jeep YJ, and this will serve as a TFL standard for off-road vehicles. So, before we can have it be our baseline, we have to take it off-road and find out just how good it is. And we're going to do that today. But before we do that, let me tell you just a little bit about it. Now, under the hood is one of the reasons we bought this Jeep. It has a straight six, high output 4-liter that puts out 190 horsepower, at least it did when it was new, and 220 pound-foot of torque. And the reason we got this 1995 model is because, unlike the CJ, it's fuel injected. And up here, when you're this high, you want fuel injection because otherwise you have to jet it for altitude. Then it runs great up here, but not so great where we're headquartered in Boulder. It also is perfect for off-roading because when you have a carbureted Jeep and you get it sideways, you tend to starve the Jeep of gasoline, and that is a bad thing. One of the things that's not so great about this is the 3-speed automatic torque flight because it gets abysmal fuel economy. I mean, we're talking with the lift, the big tires and wheels, probably in the low teens if we're lucky. Luckily, gas is cheap right now, so maybe we bought it at the right time. That is about as close to fully automatic as you can get. Let me give you a little bit of background on Jeeps. There was a CJ, there was the YJ, there was the TJ, and the current one is a JK. So why did we buy a YJ? Well, because of this. See that? The square headlights. Jeep enthusiasts did not consider this a real Jeep because it didn't have the traditional round headlights. That also means that these guys are very affordable. They built about 630,000 of them. They're very easily repairable, and they're very easy to lift. And this particular one has a 3.5-inch lift with, check it out, 33s. Just what you need to go off-roading in Colorado. All right, so what makes this an ideal off-road vehicle? Well, first of all, I love these little vent windows. How cool is that? Sometimes the simplest technology is the best, and that's what this is all about, really. Back in the day, this Jeep had plenty of ground clearance, great approach angles, great departure angles, and just a perfect stance for an off-road vehicle. That's kind of the problem with the Raptor. It's just a little too big to take it off-road. This is a perfect size, and when you give it a 3.5-inch lift, when you increase the wheel size, you just make it that much more off-road worthy. Now, there is a little chink in the armor of this vehicle, and that is the Dana 30 in the front. They tend to break when you do some serious off-roading. Now, my issue with the modern technology, and maybe I'm becoming an old school kind of guy, is when you have that kind of terrain management system and you've got a computer allocating power to wherever or whichever wheel has traction, there's just some time where the computer's thinking too hard. It's like, well, does this wheel have traction? I'm not sure. Oh yeah, it does. And so you get stuck. With this Jeep, you can put it in 4-low with a basic low gear transfer case. You're gonna get power to the wheels all the time, and there is nothing better than having power to all 4 wheels all the time, and that is why I think this will make a great off-road standard to compare to the modern system. Because let's face it, the manufacturers in their advertising are saying that the terrain management system is really as good as this kind of old school system. Yeah! So far I haven't had to put it into 4-low. I've just stuck it in 4-wheel drive. And the cool thing about this Jeep is that every single one of these gauges, which the old Jeep guys actually dislike, because I think, well, let's face it, if you were a Jeep CJ fan, then anything would have been a disappointment. Basically what the YJ was a little bit more civilized Jeep. It was a little bit wider. Uh-oh. I'm stuck. It was a little bit wider. The snow makes it trickier. It was a little bit more civilized. And it was a little bit less hardcore Jeep-like. I'm stuck again. I'll give it a little bit more juice. Get it up this hill. Come on, a little bit of momentum. There we go. Look at that, no problem. Just slow enough to get up this hill without actually struggling. The inside of this Jeep is completely pristine. The only problem with it was there was a little tear right here on the seat, and this is the Sahara model. So for $6,500 we got the top of the line Jeep with the hard top, with the soft top, with the bikini top, with the high lift jack, with almost everything you'd want to go off-road, and without the fear of actually having a brand new vehicle that could easily get damaged. Now, we're gonna do something really special this year with the newest model, the JK, but you're gonna have to stay tuned for that. That's all the hint I'm gonna give you. All right, guys, well, it's getting a little rocky here, and I'm starting to lose grip, so I'm gonna put it into 4 low. There we go, 4 low. I guess it helps if you put it in neutral, don't have to rock it. And now I'm in 4 low. Oh yeah, automatic 4 low. Look at it crawl up these rocks. Not a problem. So anyway, what the YJ was basically an attempt to make a more civilized Jeep, to make it a little bit more user-friendly, to make it less tippy, and to make it a vehicle that you could drive on an everyday basis. And I mentioned that this actually has factory air conditioning, which was rather rare back in 1995. This wouldn't be too hard of a off-road trail, except for the fact that we've got a lot of snow, which is gonna make something that, yeah, it's gonna make something that's normally really doable not so easy. So I'm gonna have to get a little bit of momentum and see if I can make it up this hill. Nope, gotta get a little bit more momentum. So it's the snow that's making this tough. It's not actually the rocks that's making it difficult. But let me get a little bit of momentum, and I bet you I can make it up this hill. Let's try again. There we go, look at that. So we're gonna have to work it a little bit, keep the momentum going to go up this hill. Yes, yes indeed. We're going backwards. I can't stop. Whoa! That was a little scary. I think this is as far as we can go. It's just too icy. Going down backwards with no brakes is very scary indeed. And you know, I guess there are some modern conveniences like ABS. That would be good, and perhaps even hill descent. So yeah, you know, so there are some things that we could certainly use from the modern era. But I still contend that the terrain management system isn't as good as just an off-road ground clearance approach to part triangles. You know what I'm talking about. A couple lessons I learned going up that hill. And by the way, there's a crashed airplane up there that we were trying to get to, but it's not going to happen today. First and foremost, these tires need to be proper off-road tires. They just don't have enough bite to them to really get the kind of grip that we need, because it's all about where the tire hits the, in this case, dirt, and there's not enough grip. Secondly, we really only have effectively two-wheel drive. We need lockers badly to be able to make use of this Jeep's ample torque, because when you put it in 4 low, oh my gosh, do you have a lot of torque to go up that hill. So plenty of torque, plenty of ground clearance, great approach angle, great departure angle. Scary that we don't have ABS or any kind of traction stability control, and we need lockers and we need better tires. Then we'll make it up that hill for sure and see the airplane. The best part about this YJ is that it was affordable. You know, people say because it has these windshield wipers that don't completely go out of the windscreen, and because it has the square lights, it's not an American Jeep. It's not a proper Jeep. Well, I can tell you one thing. When I got this Jeep, we had cracked headlights. And to replace them, it was $16 per headlight. Now, that is America, gosh darn it. Also, it came with everything to go off-road. It came with this high-lift jack. These are expensive, $250. And best of all, we paid $6,500 for it, which I think is very affordable. But there is a mystery here. This is a Canadian model. If you look on the inside, for instance, the little gauges, those are in Celsius and not in Fahrenheit. And it was advertised as having 146,000 miles on it. But I'm thinking, since this is a Canadian model, maybe that's 146,000 kilometers, because there is not a bit of rust on this. Of course, 1995 was the first year that they completely galvanized all the steel in here. And maybe that's the reason there's no rust. So when I went to get the vehicle registered, I made the mistake of paying the taxes on it without getting the emissions done first. And when I took it to the emission stations with a little bit of nervous tension, I waited, and come to find out, it failed everything. I mean, every single thing it could fail, it failed. So I took it to John's 4x4, which is the guys that we work with, and lo and behold, the catalytic converter was in place, but gutless. In other words, it was there so you could see it, but there was nothing inside of it. $800 later, the Jeep passed emissions. So that $6,500 Jeep quickly became a $7,500 Jeep in order to become fully certified. But I think it's worth it, because I love the fact that this 4-liter engine is fuel injected, which makes it great for off-roading. I love the fact that this is not a stick shift. It's counterintuitive, but you would think that a stick shift vehicle would be a lot better off-road, but it's actually much better to have an automatic. You don't want to be messing with gears when you're doing some serious off-roading. You just want to be able to feather that throttle, and with this vehicle we can do that. And I gotta be honest, I'm just falling in love with this Jeep. It would be my everyday ride if I didn't have press vehicles to drive. There's just something about a Jeep that is pure and simple. In other words, this doesn't pretend it's a vehicle that is great on road, because it isn't. This doesn't pretend that it's a vehicle that is particularly sexy, because it isn't. But it is damn good off-road, damn good off-road. So besides having John's, our partner, fix the emissions on this, what else have we done to it? Well, I've added these off-road lights, and I've kept them round because, you know, this is so 1995 goodness. You don't want to go with those new fangled LEDs. It would just wreck the look of it. I took a big can of epoxy black and spray painted everything that was fading, and I took the top off and tried it out without the doors, and it was a lot of fun. But because winter came very quickly, we've got the top back on. Will it serve as our new off-road standard? And we'll be able to compare the newfangled electronic terrain management systems on the brand new vehicles that we're going to be testing. You bet. This is going to be a great vehicle when it comes to comparing old technology with new technology. So stay tuned for that. As always, this is Roman reporting for the Fast Lane Car. Check out TFLcar.com for more news, views, and 1995 YJ Wrangler reviews. Ciao.
I love your videos.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it. Have a good day. He's got a Razor, loves our videos. It's a lot more expensive than this Jeep, and you can't take it to work. But what I was saying is, I don't have traction control or hill descent control, but I do have a low range and a low gear here. So I can let the engine torque be my hill descent control. This is the old school way of doing it. So right now my foot can't see, is off the pedal. I've got a pretty steep hill, and I'm in low. I'm just letting the torque of the engine do all of the braking for me. It works great. Look at that. Look at that. Not touching the brake whatsoever. This is a pretty steep downhill, and the Jeep is doing all the braking. Now, if I don't get hit by a ricochet, we'll be okay. Ay, 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 ay. It is the West after all. America, gosh darn America. So, didn't touch the brakes. Let the torque of the engine do all the braking. Now I'm going to put it in too low because I've got two low gears. I've got two and I've got low. So I can go a little bit faster. And here comes another razor. They're a lot of fun. But you know what? So is a $6,000 Jeep. And I can drive it home.